My name is Megan White. This is S'more. And maybe you've heard of Utthita Parsvakonasana. Maybe you haven't, but you probably have even though you haven't heard of it by that name. It's actually side angle, which is a very common pose called in yoga classes, whether you're in a studio or you like to practice at home with someone like me on YouTube. So what I thought we'd do today is break down that pose a little bit. But instead of your traditional video where we do a tutorial, I'd love it if you flowed with me. So if you can, meet me on your mat. If you have a block, feel free to grab one. I'll show you how you can incorporate it into this pose. But we'll break down the mechanics and we'll have some fun flowing it out. So let's get going. S'more's gonna let us. There we go, because we're gonna start in butterfly pose. So this is just a great way to open up the hips. I'm gonna have both of my feet kind of folded together and I'm gonna bend right over, really opening into those hips. A couple ways you can intensify butterfly if you'd like. Opening up the feet, sort of like books, and bending far. I like to think of straightening my back instead of folding over. When I straighten, I might not get as low, but I get a really good stretch. And then we'll go ahead and let that go. We're gonna come into wide angle, and I'm going to fold over either leg, but I'm gonna do it from the side. So first things first, let's sit up nice and straight. And then with my body staying, so my torso is facing you, as you can see, I'm bending over this leg. You can come as deep as you'd like, and for a little bit more, you can even bring that arm over. But this is a great stretch right here, and use this hand as support if that's helpful. So all different ways to get into that side body. We'll be using a lot in the side angle pose. We'll come on through, and then same thing, opposite side, just opening on up. Feels really good all through here. And then we'll come back. And I feel like with yoga, we always need to do some abs. So let's go ahead and get them over with right now, or enjoy them right now. We're being a little bit more positive, and we're gonna lay all the way down. Feel the body just come into the ground, come into the mat. Hands are gonna come up, and we're gonna just do some roll-ups. So think of your legs staying exactly as they are, and you're just gonna roll up with each vertebrae, coming all the way up. And then I like to move my hands up at the end. And then you just do the reverse. So hands are gonna come down, sweep all the way back, like so. So let's do that a couple bit more. And the slower you go, obviously, the less momentum you use, the more you're gonna feel this. You can do this here with bent legs if that helps. Whatever works for you. If none of it works for you, always just default to some crunches. You can never go wrong with the basic crunch. So I always like to offer a couple different ab options when we're doing ab workouts in yoga, but if crunches are your go-to, feel free to take this time to do crunches. Whatever feels right. We'll make this our last one as we roll all the way down. Very nicely done. We'll go ahead and stretch that out. Give ourselves a quick hug and a couple rolls, because we're going all the way over to tabletop position. So I'm gonna flip it here, come right here into tabletop. So my shoulder is over my wrist, same thing back here, hip is over knee, and that's the nice, safe way to be in tabletop. You'd like to think of your spine as neutral, so there's a little bit of a curve, no big deal. And from this position, we're gonna come into cat. So I'm gonna round my back all the way up, and then I'm gonna come into cow. So this time the belly hangs low and the shoulder blades really broaden. And we just keep moving back and forth between these two. So cat is sort of like a scared cat. And then cow, I seriously don't know why they call this cow, but they do. So now we know how to flow through them, even though we don't know where all these names necessarily got their origin. All I know is they definitely feel good. And you can even take some organic movements here, you know, if it feels nice to kind of roll back and forth. No need to stay exactly stagnant in the poses. Make them more dynamic if it feels nice for you. Come back to that tabletop and then push back into downward facing dog. We'll walk that dog for just a couple brief walks, a short walk if you will. And then those feet walk right up to the hands and we'll roll all the way up. Very, very nice. So before we get into side angle, I thought I'd show you two different poses that also get called quite a bit in yoga, very similar to side angle, but they are not side angle, so we can go through the differences. So first I'm gonna come into wide leg stance, and I'm going to fold over my right leg, just coming down. This is just one last nice little stretch. As I'm down here, if you want more, think of the left hip sort of pulling away from the leg you're bending over. So anytime we think about, watch out for that hair, anytime we think about the hip moving away from where maybe our hands are going, you're gonna notice that really increases the stretch. You might not see it in your body even as you're doing it, but you will certainly feel it. It feels really, really nice. Okay, so we're gonna come up and out of that. And now we're gonna come into triangle. So legs basically stay the same. My left leg certainly is. It's gonna be parallel with the mat. My right foot is just gonna pivot out. My whole upper body stays the same, much like how we bent over. We're just going to hinge down and come into triangle. So again, I'm thinking of that left hip really staying where it is. And I'm gonna open up into triangle, and this is triangle. So my front leg is straight, my back leg is straight, my hands are straight. If you want a little bit of support, feel free to put that hand on the shin, maybe do a micro bend in the knee to protect the knee, opening up through the chest. Really, really nice. And so this is triangle. Now what's pyramid? So let's come out of that safely. Pyramid, legs are still kind of the same. My hips are now gonna rotate towards the front of my mat. I'm gonna bring that back leg in. My feet are not on tightrope, so I'm not trying to do this. They're on railroad tracks, so give those hips some space. Hips rotate towards the front of the mat, and again, like we've done in the previous poses, we're hinging at the hips, working our way down. Pyramid, the hands frame the front foot. But again, as we think of those hip movements, those micro hip movements that I was telling you about earlier, I'm thinking of my right hip coming back. And then I'll really feel it all through my hamstring. And I will literally move the hip back in class because it just doesn't get there quite as easily without a little help from your friends. And now let's, again, a little micro bend in the knee to protect the knee, coming all the way up and out of pyramid. So let's do the same thing opposite side. First with that wide-legged stance. My feet are kind of rotated out to the corners, front corners of my mat. And I'm again going to come down and really fold over this left foot, thinking of this hip this time, that juxtaposition, the hip pushing back. Really, really nice. I feel it all through here, I feel it all through here. Really good. And then we'll come up out of that safely. And now triangle on this side. So this foot's gonna come in just a little bit, parallel with this side of the mat, my left foot coming towards, so it's almost if you were to make a T, crossing with the front of that mat. Hips are looking towards the side of the mat. I'm looking right at you, probably looking right at me, and then we're gonna tip this time to the left. Try and come as straight through this side body as possible. Think of the right hip pulling towards the back of the room, left hip pulling towards the front of the room as we come into triangle, opening up through the chest. Remember those collarbones that we were doing earlier in cow? Think of them here, just different position, right? A lot of times in class, you may see people come all the way down here and you think, wow, but you're really kind of just dumping into your flexibility. Here's where you're gonna build the strength and open the body. Take that micro bend, come all the way up. Pyramid, so hips are gonna Rotate to face this side, stepping that back foot up. Again, railroad tracks. This foot is sort of pointing to this corner of the mat. As I once again hinge at those hips and fold over. Really nice, you guys. Left hip, this time I move it back a little bit. If you get tight in the hamstrings, this is my #1 go-to. If you can't get all the way down, good Lord, I get it. Use that block. 2 blocks are probably better than 1, but this is what I got for today. You know, so whatever works. Hands are gonna come back up to hips as I come all the way through. So we did triangle and pyramid, but you were here for side angle. So let's get into that side angle, and then we'll add it into a flow. So side angle, the difference is that the leg is bent. So here is the bottom half of side angle. My right knee is bent in this instance, my left leg is straight, and my body is tipping down towards the bent leg side. And I really like a block for this one. Brings the ground up, and then your hand can come all the way up. Really nice stretch. You're broadening through the collarbones. If you'd like, you can even move that arm that's up towards the ceiling, towards the front of the room, and gaze can come up too. Let's do the same thing opposite side. I'll show you a variation without the block, probably a more traditional one that you may see in class. So now this foot parallel with that. This left leg is gonna be the one that bends. And I'll show you 3 different ways really quick on how you can do side angle without the block. So this would be traditional side angle, probably what you've seen in class. Forearm is on the thigh, we reach up and over. But you can also do it with hand off the mat. So this is really getting into those legs, those hips, or even kind of a little bit, if we pretend we're fancy, we can do this. So the hand comes over and then also stretch through. Okay, all the way up, come right here. To do a nice release, let's keep both legs straight. If you're open to it, you can bind the hands at the low back, even down towards the booty. Hands calm down, shoulder blades open up, and we tip forward. One last forward fold. Obviously you can do this without the hand bind, but maybe stretch through here. Letting all that go. And roll up. So now let's add side angle into a flow. Move my block over there, facing the front of my mat. We're gonna reach up and even come back a little into a slight back bend. Forward fold all the way down. Maybe even the head comes to the knees. Move the body up into a nice flat back for a halfway lift. Today I'm gonna put my hands on my quads to kind of just really brace myself. And then forward fold down. My hands plant. Both feet are gonna come back because I'm in that nice sturdy plank position. I'll show you chaturanga with moving the knees to the ground. So here knees come down. If you don't wanna lower your knees, feel free to stay in plank as you lower to chaturanga. Come up through up dog. So arms go straight, tops of feet are on the mat. Flip the toes over. Push back into downward facing dog. My right foot's gonna come all the way up. Sweep it on through. And we come into runner's lunge. Take a second to really straighten out those hips so they really are facing the front of your mat. Left hand comes down, right hand opens up. So we come into dragonfly twist. Really nice pose. Now we're gonna come into that side angle. So I'm gonna flip all the way around. If you can, just skip a runner's lunge and come through into the rotation. If you need runner's lunge, use that first so you can kind of get a little settled. But now I'm coming here and all the way through to side angle. It's kind of fun to do that rotation, to come from dragonfly twist straight into side angle. The more I don't put the pressure and dump down into this leg, the more I feel it through my abs. Now let's let that go. Come through, put both hands on the mat, step the front foot back to meet the back. This time I'll do chaturanga without knees on the ground to show you. Come all the way up and push back to downward facing dog. Left leg comes up this time, swing it all the way through. Come into that runner's lunge for a second. Right hand down, left side this time, left hand up, twist to the left, dragonfly twist. Now if you want to, try it with me. We're gonna go right to side angle. So left hand's gonna come down. I'm gonna pivot that back foot as I come all the way through to side angle. This time I'm gonna show it to you. Obviously my hand is not on my leg. Different expression of side angle. Put both hands down to frame the front foot. Front foot goes back. We lower into chaturanga. Push up through up dog. Push back to downward facing dog. Look up, step or hop. Halfway lift, forward fold. Sweep up, mountain pose. Let's flow through it one more time, maybe a little quicker, and maybe even try out that transition from dragonfly twist to side angle if you didn't do it the first time. Nice little back bend. Float all the way down. Halfway lift. Hand plant, step back. Chaturanga. Nice stretch in this up dog. Maybe stay a second. Push back into downward facing dog. Right leg sweeps up. Bring it on through. Runner's lunge for a little bit more. Hands come off the mat. Left hand plant, sweep open into that dragonfly twist. Ready for the transition? Right hand down, left hand up, side angle. Our pose of the day. Come back down, both hands plant, front foot goes back to meet the back. You can push right back to down dog or flow with me. Chaturanga, push back down dog. Left leg up, sweep it on through. Open up into that dragonfly twist. Left hand down, back foot pivots, side angle. Both hands down. Let's just press back to down dog. If you want one more chaturanga, go for it. I am good. I'm gonna look up to my hands. I can hop. Stepping is always perfect as well. Halfway lift, forward fold. Reach all the way up, mountain pose. Now let's get into our back bend to round out our class. So make your way down to your belly if you are comfortable with bow, which is going to be a back bend with our belly on the mat, and we're gonna be touching our feet. If that is not for you, don't feel like you have to skip a back bend. I always encourage people to do bridge. So bridge here, this is bridge, or put a block underneath you. For those of you on your belly, let's start out by doing a little bit of warm up before we go into full bow. I'm going to come here, and first I'm going to take my left hand, have it meet my left foot, and I'm just going to come here. Nice stretch. And then as I'm ready, I'm going to start to bring my chest up off the mat. You can even bring your leg off the mat too. Little warm up. Do the same thing, opposite side. Come all the way out of it. Always be kind to that low back. Gonna go back, meet the foot with the hand. This time I'm on my right side. And as you're ready, chest comes up. And if you're ready, leg comes up. I feel this in my shoulder too. So this is a very, very dynamic pose. And then let it all go. Now let's go into full bow. So I'm totally down on the mat. Both hands are going to meet both feet. This is the start. This is perfect if you want to stay here. You want more? Okay, here we go. Chest opens and quads start to come off the mat. So really nice. Nice back bend. And for your shoulders too. Great chest and shoulder opener. All perfect complements to the other aspects of the poses we've done today. Let that go. One of my favorite moves, windshield wiper those legs. So let it all go. And then let's press up onto our shins. Go down on the booty, come all the way down to the mat. We'll do a couple quick twists. So first, give yourself a hug because it is a really fun flow and really dynamic poses that we got to do today. Lay that out. I'm gonna bring my right knee into my chest and then move it over to the right side. And then like we've been talking about with the hips and that pull, well here where you can get a little added twist is if you think of the right shoulder coming down to the mat as the left knee comes down towards the ground. These two things never have to meet. Let me scooch over a little so you can see it. As you can see, my knee's not on the ground, but when I think of those two forces pulling in opposite directions, the stretch intensifies. I'll let that go. I'll do the same thing opposite side. So now right knee comes in and you can see it from the other way. My left shoulder, I think of left shoulder coming down to the mat as the right knee goes to the other side. So feel it all through here, through those hips. And give ourselves a nice little hug. Roll out on that lower back. Back and forth, back and forth. And then as you're ready, legs go long, head comes long, palms to the sky as we take a moment in Shavasana. Feel the body come heavy to the mat. For those of you who have the ability to stay here longer, please do. For those of you who have to get going, I'll go with you. One last hug for the work today. Roll back and forth. One last roll. Woo. And you come up. And back to a seat. So that was a flow and a quick tutorial on side angle. I hope you enjoyed it. And beyond anything else, I want to thank you for taking time for yourself, for making time on your mat. Yoga is a beautiful thing that you can do. 15 minutes every day makes a huge difference. 3 days a week, whatever works. But you did it today and that's what's important. So thank you so much for doing it with me. I love practicing with you. I hope you have a beautiful day. Namaste.